It's Monday on Daily Delivery. Michael Rand here. Patrick Reusse with me as usual. Lot to get to, Patrick. This is a good day of sports. We saved them all up. It was a good weekend, too, but a lot of big games today. Locally, I suppose the biggest deal, of course, is Monday Night Football, Vikings against the 49ers. Really a game that, you almost think the Vikings, I don't know if they have to have this one, but man, it feels like it will define their season to a certain way. Whether they win or lose this game could determine, some of what they might do at the trade deadline, although that could be a little bit overblown. But Patrick, it feels like that one's big, but bigger than that, even over the weekend, the miracle in Iowa, the win it was not a good game. It was not an aesthetically pleasing game in any way. It was almost like the Gophers just showed up and kept playing the same game that Wisconsin was playing against Iowa the weekend before. But they beat the Hawkeyes 12-10 with the help of 4 field goals and a questionable, to say the least, illegal fair catch call that wiped out an Iowa touchdown late on a punt return. But they finally won against Iowa, I guess, is the bottom line. But what was your takeaway from that one?
Well, it lived down to all the expectations. I'll say that. The over and under ended up at 30.5.
Couldn't make that number small enough.
Lowest. So in other words, it opened at 32.5, which was basically historically low, one of the 3 lowest ever. And it went down. Everybody bet the under at 32.5. So it ended up at 30.5. That's the lowest since 96, when it kind of became something that people were really paying attention to, I think was when I heard 96. So it's the lowest ever. And, okay, if they give the guy the touchdown, then it's getting dicey, the over and under, because then it's, let's say if they scored a touchdown, they're going for 2, right? So 19. So that gets you to 19. Then it's 31. Then they covered, right?
No, because it would have been 16. It would have been 16-12.
Oh, that's 18. That's right. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. I was thinking, yeah. So anyway, it was still good. No matter, even if they go for 2, it's still good, which they would have gone for. So it's incredible. But the Gophers were an offensive machine compared to Iowa. They completed some passes. They, they came out and they ended up with 260 yards or something like that, I think. And Iowa had 137 yards.
Amazing.
They had 2 yards in the second half. I am not lying. This quarterback could not start for Gustavus. He could not start for St. John's. He could not start for about half the MIAC teams. He is pathetic.
The Iowa quarterback.
What is he? The Iowa quarterback. Why is he playing? He's terrible. He's just god awful. He can't, he's a 240-pound guy. You think, maybe he can run. He can't run. He's just a statue back there, and he's terrible. And I guess the Iowa interview afterwards to Ferentz, those guys have been covering him for 100 years down there, and they said, "Don't you have anybody else?" Was basically the question. Why is this guy playing? Was the questions that he was facing. And, for Iowa to be outraged because, the call was, the amazing thing about the call is nobody thought it was anything but a touchdown, including the Gopher sideline. There was no appeal from the Gopher sideline. They just assumed it was a touchdown. The guy was obviously pointing at his blockers when I watch it. He's like, get over there and, help me out here. And if that's a lousy fair catch, then, if that's an invalid fair catch, then, what? I think somebody showed some video that showed 4 punts in that game that were treated the same way,
Really?
that the returner was like waving around and doing stuff like that. So I think it was, by the letter of the law. But what kind of a idiot do you have up in the press box who thinks he's going to impose himself on that play when what the guy did had nothing to do with the outcome of that play? You got some officious idiot up there in the press box who wants to get in on the action. And, I'm not saying he was there to rob Iowa. He was there to make himself important.
Right.
It was And it was, but hey, the Gophers, the Gophers probably deserved to win. It's as awful as Iowa was. So, and now they get the Big Ten West worse, way worse than last year.
Yes,
way worse,
it's
which
terrible.
we thought was bad.
There might not be a good team.
No, there's not even an average team. I don't think. Iowa's terrible. Wisconsin's terrible. Illinois is terrible. Illinois was pretty good last year.
Yeah.
Wisconsin was, good. Iowa was, they had some offense last year to go with a wonderful defense that's even better than this year's. And, so you got three teams that were basically the three best teams in the West last year. They all stink. The Gophers could go. Ohio State might be their only loss left. I think they'll beat Wisconsin here. So
they could, They could be 6-3.
They're going to be favored here in several, in these next three. I mean, Michigan State hadn't won yet, right?
Yeah, Michigan State's bad, and they got Illinois home after that, then at Purdue, I think.
The only way you can lose to Illinois is let them beat you like they did last year, which is basically they beat you the way Iowa tries to beat the Gophers last year. They just ran three plays and punted, and the Gophers couldn't do anything. But I don't know. I think when push comes to shove, the Gophers have to be pretty disappointed in what they've seen from this quarterback so far, though, after the big pub they were giving him going into the year. I know he hasn't played much, blah, blah, blah. He hadn't been good. He has not been good. And I think the way they tried to build him up, future NFL guy, blah, 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 that we were all expecting to see more than we've seen from him. And, Jackson's a really good receiver. I like him a lot. If Ottman Bell had been able to play this year much or contribute as much, he might have had the right receivers. But it's, the Gophers are not very good, but they could go 6-3. But what a thrilling, no matter who's there, what a thrilling championship game it's going to be. Unbelievable.
What Michigan, or I'm sure it'll be one of those big schools. Michigan seems like they have a lot this year. So Michigan against any number of those teams, it'd be a pick your score game. But it still would be whoever gets there, especially if it's Minnesota by some chance. So and again, now knowing what we know now about the Big Ten West, the Northwestern loss feels even worse because they would be in the complete driver's seat if they hadn't lost that game at Northwestern a few weeks back. But this Iowa game almost, not like it makes up for it completely, but it almost, I tweeted afterwards, I still can't believe that happened for the Gophers and not to the Gophers. That feels like a classic way for the Gophers to lose a game.
I don't buy that. How many heartbreakers have they lost?
I mean, not lately, many. But just in their history. We're going back to Mason. I go back to Mason. Come on, I got to go back to Mason. Those games.
Well, Mace had some horrible losses. That's for sure. Mace had better teams than this guy's had.
He did. I agree with that.
In a lot of ways, they had the great running attack and stuff like that, but they did have about 6 of them that were unbelievable. I've talked to him a few times. He says, "You guys never remember the ones we pulled out, like Foggy running the ball down and Lowell Miller kicking that wasn't Mace. That was the Penn State. The one at Penn State.
Oh yeah.
The one at Penn State that they had no chance, and then they pulled it out. And
right.
He won one at Michigan too, didn't he? He won once at Michigan,
yeah, he did.
I believe. Yeah. And so, I mean, he said, you never remember those. I said, well, the reason to remember the losses is because it looked like he had something going. And then, that Ohio State loss is one of the worst of all time because they just were great that day. The Michigan loss at the Metrodome. They were great that day, and then all of a sudden they completed like 9 little swing passes for 500 yards and beat you. That was an awful loss.
I still remember that game because it must have been a Friday night game because I was doing.
Yes, it was.
I was doing high schools then, and I was out at a game. So I wasn't watching it, and someone told me the score at the end of the third quarter, and I was like, "Oh, the Gophers are finally going to beat Michigan! Wow, they must have a team." And I get home and I see the score. I'm like, "What happened?" So I had to catch up.
It was just awful. It was awful. What was that? Why was that? Why was it an odd night?
Was it Twins in the playoffs?
Twins,
2003.
Yeah, they were in the playoffs. Yeah, they were in the playoffs. So, but it was late. It was late, I
Yeah,
think,
it wasn't.
late in the season. It was a little later in the
It
season.
was October though. I think it was.
Yeah,
I think it might have been ALDS, and they had to
yeah,
something there.
maybe that was it. Anyway, yes, they've had some losses, but Fleck hasn't had any. How many heartbreakers has he
No,
lost? I mean, just because he lost a close game, there hasn't
right.
been one that what a fluke they got beat by. So
No, they've had some tough ones against Iowa, though. I suppose that's then that
well, yeah,
Iowa has been the nemesis. You know, not just
yes, and they
not
and
just that
they
they couldn't beat them, but they've blocked them a few years from going to the Big Ten West title game.
but they just beat the worst Iowa team I've ever seen.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, no, not the worst ever, because for 20 years before Hayden Fry got there, they were horrible. But so I have seen them be worse. But this, in modern times, this has got to be Ferentz's worst team.
And they were ranked. They were ranked, and they were.
Yes, well, that was stupid. Why? How could you look at them and rank them?
I don't know. They were 6-1. Yeah.
Yeah, but who cares?
I know.
They were awful. They're beating nobody. They haven't beaten anybody. They haven't scored any points. They went into there are 133 Division I football teams, and they went in ranked 133rd in offense. Yes. And we're going to have parades because we beat them.
It did not improve
on a stupid call. We beat them on a stupid call, and we're going to have parades for goodness sakes. I don't care if you've never beaten them. It was an embarrassment. I said that Iowa's offense is an embarrassment to post-World War I football, college football. Some guy says, no, the Spanish-American War football. It's unbelievable. It's the worst offense ever. How does he keep his kid on the job?
I don't know.
I mean, how did the Iowa fans keep showing up?
I don't know. How do you watch that?
Boycott them? Why don't they boycott them?
I don't know.
Until you do something offensively. Now they have, their whole offense, and for about 8 years has been thrown to the tight end, and their first 3 tight ends are all hurt. So they got no tight ends to throw to, and that's part of their attack. I mean, half the league is full of Iowa tight ends.
Two of them tonight, right? Kittle and Hawkinson.
Yeah, and then Laporta with Detroit. Kid one from them too. So anyway, it was a glorious victory, but it was humorous, and that the fact that the under was good is just fascinates me. Something amazing. 30 and a half.
I also love that Fleck talked post game about how he got advice talking last summer to Bielema about how to beat Iowa. You got to play the long game. You got to play the long game against Iowa and wait them out.
Well, last year you played the long game against Iowa, and by playing the long game against Iowa, you play right into their hands. You got to try to open the game up and get it moving. You got to get the game moving. Last year they gave the ball to Abraham 42 times. So the fact that he was playing the long game last year, was he? He wasn't playing the long game last year, but he gave it to his running back 42 times. That guy is so full of BS. It's up to his eyebrows every time he opens his mouth. I don't think he's a bad coach. I've never said I thought he was a bad coach, but his personality, I can't stand him. Okay. That's just me and him. I don't expect everybody to believe me, but I just can't stand the when he says idiotic stuff like that, and he's out there crying on the field and all that 20 minutes after the game. Give me a break. Unbelievable. They have the
pig and the axe for the first time in a very long time. I mean, let's.
Well, that's right. They beat Wisconsin last year too. Yeah, that's right. How are we doing with the victory belt? We don't have that.
No. Not so good with that.
We don't have the jug either, I don't think. No. We got nudged in the jug game, but
nudged in the jug
game. The two that count, the two big ones.
The two that the Big Ten has deigned to preserve as rivalries in the new.
And next year, instead of these being very important in the Big Ten West, if these teams are all the same, it'll be very important on who finishes 13th.
Yes. Yes. Get while the getting's good. Get it while you can.
The other thing I keep reading about Fleck is that he's a good recruiter. That he's an excellent recruiter, not as good a coach. I'd say, they were in the mid 40s last year. They were in the mid 50s the year before. They were worse than the Big Ten 2 years ago. So this nonsense. Now he's done okay transfers and stuff, and the fact that they've had 6-year players because of COVID has helped them. But his recruiting has not been good. Okay, and now he's 35th, but he signs everybody early.
Right.
By the time the December signing date's over, he'll be in the 40s, high 40s again. And all 4 teams coming into the Big Ten will be ahead of him, and he'll be like 15th, 14th or 15th in an 18-team league. So that's another nonsensical thing that people keep writing. He had one good recruiting year, and it's been downhill since then. And that's because you won't write him out a check for any IL money, you
Right.
cheapos. It's your fault.
Right.
Grand Casino would like to take a moment and salute the true football fan. The passion, the hope, the anticipation, that incomparable feeling of winning. Grand Casino would also like to take a moment to remind you that you can find all that anticipation, thrill, and winning at Grand Casino. Grand Casino, let your story begin.
Anyway,
We should probably move on to the
Nice
NFL game
win.
tonight. We can talk baseball in a bit, but this game tonight, Patrick, we transitioned briefly talking about the those tight ends that'll be playing tonight. They'll have something to say about who wins. I imagine the health of McCaffrey is probably the biggest factor in any of this. If he plays or not, he's questionable. Usually, feels like a lot of times when someone's questionable these days, they play, but to what effect he'll have, and if he re-aggravates that.
Yeah.
And it's an oblique too, which makes me wonder because you don't mess with an oblique.
And it's him. He misses half of every season he plays.
Yes.
So McCaffrey's great, but they're missing the other guy too.
Yeah, Debo's out for sure.
I think that Purdy, we saw what Purdy is last week when he didn't have those 2 guys.
Right.
He's not going to win the game. He's a very mediocre quarterback. I think one of those games that Kirk has got a definite advantage. Now you don't have Jefferson to throw to, and their defense is good, but I like the Vikes tonight. I think they'll win. I just think that San Francisco is, you got to cover Kittle, and then that'll take care of things. I think you got to cover him, but when you're missing those 2 great offensive players, and then their left tackle's probably not going to play.
Yeah, he's
either.
doubtful. Yeah, he's doubtful.
Trent Williams, a big guy that's hurt quite a bit. So I don't think San Francisco looked like a super team when they were in one piece, but they looked Purdy looked terrible last week. I watched quite a bit of that game, and which they lost. I like the Vikes tonight. So
yeah,
and then they got Green Bay, who was awful.
Oh, they lost to Denver. They lost to Denver yesterday.
Jordan Love has got no idea what he's doing. They got to go down and kick a field goal. He's got a guy wide open 15 yards, 20 yards down the field, and he throws a rainbow down,
hero ball,
double coverage for no reason. They got a minute left. He has not got it figured out, anywhere near got it figured out yet. So I mean, the schedule gets easy here. They win tonight. They win tonight. They're kind of like, here's our big advantage we got in this town. Every division we're playing in stinks.
Yeah, it's very true.
The Central stinks. The Big Ten West stinks worse than the AL Central. And now you got the
NFC
Vikings
North.
The NFC North. Detroit yesterday, 38-6.
Yes,
They get beat by the Ravens. So they're starting to hit their stride. And the Packers are terrible, and the Bears. Hey, the Bears are hot.
Tyson Bagent. We doubted him, but he won that game.
Is Josh McDaniel going to make it out of the week? I would think not. I think when you go into Chicago and get beat there, now their quarterback was hurt too. But
yes,
but yeah, the Bears. When the Bears embarrass you, it's time to. But yeah, the Vikes are in the right division. I said all along they could win it at 9-8. They can get to 9-8.
They're not. Detroit's going to be better than 9-8, though. They had a bad game yesterday, but they're still better than that. I think.
I think they hit their stride. I think this is it. I don't know. I've seen enough Lions through the years that when things go bad, they go bad. They're just, I don't know.
The Vikings can definitely still be a wild card at this point, too, though. If they win, especially if they win tonight. Even if they lose tonight, you've got a slate of games. So that's what makes this one so interesting, because if they lose tonight and then lose at Green Bay next week, which is entirely possible. We've seen this team lose to anybody this year. They can lose to anybody. So
they can figure out a way to lose. I'll say that. They can figure out a way to lose, but I don't know. Let's see if our coach is a little sharper on the sidelines calling plays today too.
I agree with that. I'm not impressed with his offense at all this year, and I wasn't
not so far.
I wasn't really super impressed last year either. I don't know. I think he's got some work to do in that regard. I think he's a good coach. I think he's a good, manager of people. They seem to like playing for him, but he wasn't really a play caller in LA. That was all McVay. So what? I think he's got the in-game management. I think that's always been the criticism of Fleck a lot of this time too, is his in-game management versus his the rest of the week.
Fleck's extremely conservative. That's his big problem. Right. But here's the other deal. Let's stop whining about the offensive line every time someone gets within 4 feet of Kirk.
Yes.
Well, they're not all the Kirk lovers are saying they're not protecting him. They got the highest rated left tackle in football. They got a tremendous right tackle, and the guys in the middle haven't been awful.
No, I agree.
So just shut up. He's a statue back there. It's his problem. He's got to be able to respond to the modern NFL. The whole theory of, unless you're Ed Donatel, the whole theory is to put pressure on the quarterback, because that's the only way you can stop passing attacks, because you can't push a guy in the secondary without getting called for a penalty. So there's receivers all over the place. So you got to put heat on the quarterback, and Kirk's going to get pressured with extra guys and stuff. But the idea the offensive line, how can they haven't paid any attention to the offensive line? Well, you got nothing but number ones and number twos on the offensive line. So shut up about the offensive line. It's not great, but they also they don't have the world's greatest running backs either. So
no, I think running backs a bigger concern right now than offensive line. Their offensive line has been like number 5 or 6 on their list of problems this year.
Yeah, but that's not, if you follow Twitter or places, it's every time Kirk gets hit, it's the offensive line. They don't pay any attention to their offensive line. They don't pay attention to is the defensive line. Yes,
they don't pay attention to that anymore.
Yes, that's right. And the one guy they spend money on is basically done for the season. Boy, they got a lot of use out of Marcus Davenport. They have about 8 plays. Why did they give him so much money? Why didn't they give it to Tomlinson?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think we figured this out on the Access Vikings show the other day, that the last time they drafted an edge rusher in the first round was Erasmus James in 2005.
Wow. That one worked out well.
That didn't work out great. That was the Troy Williamson Erasmus James first round that really set them up for the future.
Yes. Yeah.
Set them up for a rebuild.
Yeah, you had the number 7 overall pick. Oh, yeah. Boy, this guy fast.
7 and 18. 7 and 18.
Did anybody ever watch him in a practice drill to see how many he caught out of 10? Like, was it 4 out of 10 or something?
It wasn't great. That wasn't great.
Unbelievable. Yeah, that was a disaster.
But I believe that was the last time they took one in the. I believe that was the last time they took one in the first round, and the last time they took a defensive lineman at all in the first round, I think it was Sharif Floyd 10 years ago. So they keep thinking they're going to hit on the next, Brian Robinson, Everson Griffin, Danielle Hunter, these guys they've hit on the 3rd and 4th rounds, and sometimes you got to spend those number 12 picks on a defensive end instead of a corner or safety or something like that. You can't
wide receiver or something. Anyway, I like them tonight though. I think they don't stink. I don't think they just
touchdown underdog. Touchdown underdog.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes. Even with all the stuff.
That would be, I'm surprised it's even on the board with all the 49ers injury questions.
Yeah.
But Debo is out, right?
Debo is definitely out. McCaffrey, I think
Yeah.
the final designations were Debo is out. I think Williams is doubtful and McCaffrey is questionable.
Mhm.
But if McCaffrey plays and is effective, though, that changes the offense. It changes the game because he's what makes them go. When they got him, that whole thing changed.
I think Flores will go after Purdy, though.
Yes,
He
I think he
showed
will
last
too.
week he can get rattled.
And Purdy's not extra mobile. I mean, he's more of a
No.
kind of classic pocket guy, so you can get to him if you get there.
Boy, how bad was Trey Lance? That they couldn't wait to get rid of him. Oh, man, that's unbelievable what they gave up for that. They're going to have to pay the price for some of these. The 49ers are going to have to pay the price here for all the draft choices they've been giving up, won't they?
Yes. Yeah, because the McCaffrey trade and then that,
Lance was 3 number ones, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah. Yes, it was. Wow. Yeah, so they're going to have a time in the future where they're not very good, but that time is not right now. We'll see. Some good baseball today too, Patrick. I got locked in on that game 5, the ALCS game 5, when I thought Texas was gonna take it over Houston. Then Altuve, that guy is a killer, but then Texas comes back, all 6 road wins in this series.
Amazing.
It's amazing. I don't know.
I'll tell you though, if you run bad pitching and Houston's big problem is Valdez is not anywhere near what he was.
Right.
And, so they hit a couple of home runs off him and, he never cruises anymore like he did. And then they got into the bullpen and knocked him around. And that Texas team can hit. You better have good pitching. I like tonight's Javier. I like him, even though he had a bad spell in September. But then he got his act together against the Twins.
He was good against the Twins, yeah.
And and then Scherzer's going to give it a try for Texas tonight. So that'll be pretty good TV, even though the Vikings 49ers will probably kill them in the ratings. But then the other one's pretty good too. You got Nola against Merrill Kelly, who's not bad for Arizona, but you got to kind of like Philly to end it. I would think back home, and that place has been amazing. Hey, Schwarber. Does Schwarber, when he runs around the bases, look more like Babe Ruth than anybody in history? Doesn't he? I mean, when you see the old grainy films of Babe Ruth trotting around, Schwarber's guy, I wonder if he's doing that intentionally. It's basically like he's unbelievable. He is the poster boy for modern hitting.
I was just going to say that. Was he got like 93 home runs the last 2 years and like 400 and some strikeouts?
Yes, and this year he had 47 homers and 48 singles. It's 197, and he's a hero.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, but that the other night, which game was it? Was it 4? Yeah, 4, the one they won, because they lost. That second ball, he hit the right field, right center field. They're almost straightaway center field. That thing was in orbit. It was unbelievable. It was, I don't know what they called it, but it looked like it was 500 feet and 400 feet up in the air. It was amazing. It's what would they be doing with the wave hitter swing now? What would they be doing with the 2019 baseball?
Oh man,
it'd be going some places that man has never seen before. It would be like explorations of Mars, some of these balls.
What would they do in the dead ball era too, though? It would just be a bunch of 250-foot pop outs, and every game would end 1-0 on a pass ball or something.
Yeah, that's right. It's just, the Twins, I'll give them credit for honesty. They came out at the end of the last week and told everybody, we're going to keep striking out. We don't care. We're fine with it. We just set an all-time record. We don't care. We just wanted to get a lot of barrels. That's all we care about. If we strike out, we strike out. Who cares?
Yep. I don't know. I think they need to alter their approach a little bit because you know what? A lot of these other teams hit a lot of home runs, hit a lot of barrels, and then they change their approach just a little bit when it's two strikes or when it's the good pitchers. I don't know. I just something about it. It's not the strikeouts that bother me. It's when you miss it by 3 feet or you take those pitches right on the corner.
The thing about the Twins is they think, we'd say they got robbed on more pitches than any more strikes because they take more pitches.
They do.
They're the takers of all time.
Yes.
And they definitely have the theory that, it's not out there that much, but the theory is if you can't drive it, don't swing at it.
Yeah.
That's pretty much seemed to be their theory. So anyway, the baseball's been good though so far. And I don't know about the guy getting thrown out of the game. Was he really, getting suspended at Abreu?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. You're down 4-2. It's the bottom of the 8th inning, and the leadoff hitter's on base. And you're going to hit this guy because you're mad because he acted like an idiot when he hit a home run. I just don't buy it. Now, I'm sure they were saying knock him down and, throw it inside, but I don't think the guy's trying to. I don't think that Dusty's been around too long to want to give away a game by hitting a guy because he hot dogged on a home run.
And then they ended up winning anyway. Anyway because they got out of the inning and Altuve hits the homer.
Otherwise, it's over. If they hadn't pulled that one out, it's over. I don't know. I'm rooting for Houston, but they might not. I don't really care about that one. I want the Phillies to win just to put some life into the World Series because Arizona's spunky as heck. You got to give them credit, but I don't know who any of them are. And I think Arizona, it's good. We're in the bases. We're in the World Series. We'll go wave our hanky, and then we'll ignore them again next year. So that's my theory. So anyway,
Patrick, before we get out of here, you wrote some interesting stuff this week. Your People's Stadium column. The People's Stadium will be occupied by the Vikings tonight, and it will not be occupied by Gopher baseball this season. I had some Gopher baseball players on at the state fair a couple months ago, and they were telling me about that. I don't think they're heartbroken about a bunch of February and March trips to California and Texas, but I do think that they would be better served being able to play a lot of those games in the stadium.
Budget-wise,
it kills them. Yeah,
right. You're as Anderson said, you're putting 40 people on a plane and all that equipment. They got to move the equipment too. You don't drive the truck, so what baggage costs now on airplanes is tremendous, and they're. It was. That story was out there. So I had some people saying, you got that story. Well, it was out there. Charlie Walters had it in there. You had it. You knew about it. It had been out there for a while. We hadn't really done anything major on it. So
when you put your perfect touch on it. I was just saying because it's like when they built this thing, it was. You got to put Gopher baseball into it, but then now it's just an inconvenience, right? They got to fix the turf, and now is the time to do it. That's the time to do it.
Yeah, and they just the Gophers. The Gophers. It was probably their fault. They trusted them. Don't trust.
You messed up. You trusted us.
And people are saying, well, they can't afford to have all the concessions and all the security in there. Go to a Gopher baseball game. They got one concession stand open if you're lucky. They got one ticket taker, and they got like 4 other people working in the building. They just like when they do high school football and soccer in there, they downgrade the staff as far as they can because they're not making enough money on it. So they're, instead of following the spirit of the law, they just bare bones the hell out of it. I hate that stadium. Bring back the Metrodome. It's too big. It's stupid. It's, but what I do love? I always refer to it as the Dome, which irritates the lovers of the place.
The Ziggy Dome. The Ziggy Dome.
The Ziggy Dome. It's not a dome. It's not a dome.
How many Vikings games have you seen there?
Me?
Yeah.
3, I believe.
3? Okay.
I don't remember. The last one I was for sure at the one where they lost to miss the playoffs, the last game of the season.
Okay.
Kirk had a horrible game. And then was it 19?
18.
And then I was at the playoff game last year.
Yeah.
And I've been at one or two others, I think. But I stay away. I go to Prep Bowl usually there, which it's too high. I don't want to be sitting way up there 900 miles away, and then you got to go downstairs and walk all over the hallway. The Metrodome, nice and cozy. I like cozy, dang it.
Cozy. Concourses you could barely fit a few people into, but there you go.
Yeah. Hey, people tell me the concessions at this place are worse lines than they had at the Metrodome. They say they're awful.
Weird.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm sure it'll be full tonight. It'll be hopping tonight. Big one downtown. I was downtown last night for some other stuff, and there's already people walking around with the Vikings jerseys on. A lot of people in town for the game already, so we'll see.
Good. That's good for town. And it's and we'll have probably 3 columnists, 3 beat writers, a couple of they won't need me. We'll have 8 or 9 people there, so we'll have all the coverage you need in tomorrow's Star Tribune.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Well, I'm sure
online, by the way, we got a very good digital operation, as Randball can tell you here.
Yes. Yes, and we'll talk about that a lot on tomorrow's show, I imagine, and probably Wednesday's show as well. All right, Patrick, appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
See you later. Goodbye.